Good afternoon and welcome to this virtual event brought to you by the University of Maine's Fogler Library, Maine's largest research library. My name is Paige Holmes and I'm a philanthropy officer at the University of Maine Foundation. And I have the honor of serving as the liaison between the Fogler Library and the wonderful people across this country that support the library and the UMaine Press. I see a number of familiar faces today, and I really appreciate everyone joining us. I'll add my contact information in the chat section in a few minutes and encourage you all to reach out to me if you have any questions. Is everyone seeing me as the speaker, or are you seeing something else? Oh, okay, Charles just gave me the thumbs up. Thank you, Charles, that's just what I needed. All right, now if you could just grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and find some place comfortable to settle in. We have a great lineup for you this afternoon. In a moment, I will introduce you to our fantastic new Dean of Libraries, Daisy Singh, and then our Director of Special Collections, Gregory Curtis, will be sharing some interesting treasures from Special Collections. After we will look forward to addressing your questions and comments, which you can put in the chat section at any time during our discussion as you think of it. And then after Greg presents, we will go through those questions and comments and open it up. And then at the end, Dean Singh will share some highlights that are coming up this spring, and we'll wrap up by 4 o'clock. At that time, you can seamlessly switch between tea time and cocktail hour. And if some of you want to get a jump start, I'm not going to judge. Go right ahead. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Daisy Singh. She comes to us from the Big Apple. Her undergraduate work is in Latin American Studies at New York University. She received a master's degree of library science from Long Island University. And in 2006, Daisy became an instructor and reference librarian at the City College of New York, which is the flagship campus of the City College of New York system. She also served as an exhibits coordinator for many years, bringing film festivals and speakers to the community. In 2010, she received her second master's degree in history from City College and was promoted to assistant professor. She later became the information literacy librarian in 2018 and earned her tenure and promotion to associate professor. So, Daisy has taught in the history department at both Pace University and City College of New York. Her research interests relate to Latin America, particularly building collections of music and film from indigenous and Latin American cultures. More recently, she has delved into animal studies and served as the non-scientist member at the CUNY Advanced Science Center Research Center. And she served as the president of the Seminar of the Acquisition of Latin American Library Materials from 2017 to 2018, as well as editor of the organization's papers in 2020. Also in 2020, she became the interim associate dean and chief librarian at the City College of New York. Before joining us at UMaine this fall as Dean of Libraries, now she is here as Dean of Libraries, overseeing Fogler Library, Mitchell Library at UMaine's regional campus in Machias, and the UMaine Press. I've had the pleasure of working with Daisy for several months now, and I am thrilled to share that she has hit the ground running, and she brings a great deal of fresh ideas and energy to this community, and she's an absolute delight. So I am pleased to have the opportunity to welcome our new Dean of Libraries, Daisy Singh.
Thanks, Paige. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, so I just wanted to take a moment to thank Paige. She's been terrific this whole time I've been here. We've had several meetings already, and also my colleagues, Greg Curtis and Cole Brown, for helping us put this event together. So just share a few things about myself. You can ask I come here from New York City. I'm the only child born in Brooklyn, New York City, but all my family is from Ecuador. So very different environment coming into Maine. So far, I've been enjoying it a lot. It's a lot calmer than New York, as you can imagine. I'm enjoying the nature. We both are. My husband is a cyclist, so he's tried to get out where he can, and he uses the stationary Ruby where he can also. And we're just enjoying the fact that people are so friendly here to us. We've been made to feel very much at home, and we're very grateful. And I've had the pleasure to meet some of you in person and virtually, so that's been cool also. I just wanted to share a few of the things that I've been, well, actually, the other thing I've been doing as a Paige thought you might be interested is that I like to dance. So the Wilson Center hosts a ballroom and a Latin night. So I tried Rumba for the first time. So that was interesting. And because I've had some previous footwork growing up, as a Latin, I've learned cumbia, merengue, salsa growing up, but I've also taken like some flamenco and other classes, and the group was very nice. So that was a cool thing to do. And I'm starting to get into quilting again. And I think there's a quilters guild nearby, so I might be joining that at some point when their meetings don't conflict with the work schedule. And I've been visiting, I visited Ellsworth. I'm going to be visiting Machias, so Merrill Library in Machias in a few weeks, I think, and perhaps Farmington also. So as you probably read in my letter, if you have any recommendations on where we should visit, please let me know. I'd love to hear about it. If anyone has any questions, I wanted to let you know about some of our initiatives, but if you have any questions now, feel free to chat or just ask, I guess. Chat might be best, I'm not sure. Paige is nodding chat. Okay, so I guess she'll let me know if there's a question as it comes through. So I've been learning my role. As you know, it's a big one because I'm overseeing not only Fogler here at Orono, but also Merrill and Machias. Also, the executive director of Maine InfoNet is a direct report as well. And the Maine InfoNet works with libraries throughout the state. So it's a lot of complexity that I'm learning little by little. And we also work as a consortium with the University of Maine library directors within the system, as well as the University of Maine Press. So there's a lot to learn, and I've been trying to do my best in the past 3 months, but people keep analogizing it's like drinking from a fire hose, going well. One of the things that's of interest to me in terms of the internal culture in the library is more inclusiveness. So I think we've done a few things to try to open up dialogue and allow more voices to participate. So we've created a listserv maybe a month or two back. And so everyone has the opportunity to comment there. We've been shifting some committee work to also include different people from throughout the Fogler Library, and also looking into whether we can have more meetings throughout the year so that more people are on the same page in terms of what's going on in the library. We're also looking into professional development opportunities and streamlining that for the entire staff, regardless of rank. Some other things that we're working on are conversations about strategic planning, which we're doing at the department head level, combined with our strategic plan, but also thinking of different things that we may have missed related to the pandemic and how that affects libraries going forward. In terms of we're also working on a website revamp in a couple of months. We're adding photographs for the directory so folks can see everyone who works in the library or those who chose to take a photograph, but also trying to make more prominent different services that we offer, like the Maine Science Business, the Maine MBS, the Maine Business Science Technology Library, and the Patent and Trademarks Resource Center, which are two services that we provide that may not be well known to everyone. So that'll be coming hopefully in the next few months. Strategic planning conversations probably will relate to some potential renovations and even things as maybe boring to some, like HVAC work that needs to be done in the library. But Charles is shaking his head that it's not boring, maybe. So, so good. Yeah, it's a quality of life issue, both for the staff, but also for the patrons and even the collections. So it's one of those things where there's no controversy about it. I think everybody can agree that we need a new system. So that we're working on in the coming months. And also for those of you who are faculty, I know that increasingly I've had conversations with faculty and other deans about the open access mandate at the government level, and the concerns about how we're going to fund that, because subscription models are changing. So in the coming months, I hope to convene a group to begin discussing concretely what our steps are going forward. And I think Dan Sandweiss is here, so I wanted to thank him for being among the first to suggest this. Hey, Dan. Other things that we're working on is the former university club, which is the Lynch Room, is no longer the university club. So we're trying to see if we can begin nicknaming it anew as the Salon. So the idea is to have a space on campus where people can retire to after they have an official lecture somewhere else and they want to keep the conversation going. So they come to the Lynch Room, which now will allow food and drinks to keep the conversation going. In addition to that, I'd like to convene a group to put together a Salon series in the coming months also, most likely the next academic year, I think, because it takes time to figure out speakers. I'd like it to be an interdisciplinary Salon series. And so I'd like to be inviting people from different disciplines, different schools and colleges. Another thing that we're working on is reviving the Fogler Library magazine. So if anybody has any, please feel free to let me know. There's different people on staff who are excited to revive it, but that's also coming down the pike in a few months. Probably we haven't started the work, but the idea is there. And the other thing I can say is that I'm excited and a bit nervous. The Maine Question podcast is going to be interviewing me in the next few weeks. So in case you want to hear me gab a little more, or yammer, as my favorite Boardwalk Empire phrase is, you can hear me there in a couple of weeks probably. So I think those are the main things I wanted to point out. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. You might need your coffee so that you get excited and ask a question.
We'll have some question and answer time later as well. So why don't we move along at the moment? And if you think of questions or have comments, please feel free to include them in the chat, and we'll get to them after Greg speaks. So thank you, Daisy, so much for that great update. As many of you know, Fogler Special Collections are a deep and vast treasure trove. And our head of special collections, Gregory Curtis, is with us today. And he has a few of these treasures to share with you all. Please feel free, again, to put your comments in the chat section. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to Gregory Curtis. Oh, actually, let me give you a little bit of background. Got ahead of myself there. Greg grew up in Lisbon, Maine. After studying architecture in a college out of state, he returned to Maine and received his BA in art history at the University of Maine. So he is a Black Bear. He then attended the University of Rhode Island's Graduate School of Library Science, concentrating in archives and rare books, and worked in special collections there. After graduating, he worked for the Maine Historical Society as an assistant manuscript curator, in the University of Maine at Presque Isle as a reference librarian, and eventually as library director and director of information technology. In 2010, Greg moved to the University of Maine as the Regional Federal Depository librarian for Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. He is still responsible for that role, and then also joined as head of special collections in 2021, in the fall of 2021. Greg has served on several boards and councils and is currently a member of the Maine Archives and Museum Association, New England Archivists, and the Society of American Archivists. Greg and his wife, Mary, live in Bangor, and they have 3 grown children in Baltimore, Chicago, and Utah. So I'm betting Greg puts on a lot of frequent flyer miles.
We did thank you, Paige, for that introduction. We did this summer because we did a tour of the West to see all of our kids, and I have a brother that lives in Boise as well. So it is so great to be here and see so many faces and names that I have known over the years. So I'm really happy to do a very brief, unfortunately, tour of some of the great things that we have here in special collections. One of the difficulties always is in something like this of choosing what to highlight, because we have, as Paige said, so many great items in the collection. Now let's hope that our technology works, and I'm gonna share my screen with everybody and have a slideshow here for everyone. Okay, I think we will have
Just go to
do it.
slideshow mode, Greg.
I can see it.
Yeah, I was going to make it bigger for everyone, but I think that this may have to be, because I can't get to the bar across the
I
top.
think that's fine.
Is going to prevent me. Anyway, for those of us that are Black Bears and have been around any time, we probably all recognize this painting of Joshua Chamberlain. I think we all know Joshua being the commander of the 20th Maine at Gettysburg and throughout the Civil War, and then Brewer native who went on to be president of Bowdoin College. This painting by Hendrickson has been in our collection for years and years. I think I remember seeing it as a student when I was a student here back in the 80s in special collections. It's just a iconic item that we have. We don't have it currently on display because we've swapped it out for other items, but always like to start with this because everybody recognizes Chamberlain through the years. One of the questions I always get, or people always ask, is what's the oldest book we have in the collection? And this is actually what I've been able to determine is probably the oldest book. It's a book, Dante's Convivio, which roughly translates to banquet from what my rusty Latin. And it is what we call, and I'm going to use a library jargon term here, hopefully not too unfamiliar. It's actually an incunabula. And what that really means is it's any book that was printed within the first 50 years of the invention of printing. So 50 years after Gutenberg's Bible. This item, this version or this edition of Dante was published in 1490. So it does fall within that time period. Now, you may say that it doesn't really look like a book from 1490. Actually, the binding itself is probably around 1840 from what our records are showing. So that's just the spine. And then this is just a page from within that book. So just to give you a flavor of what it looks like inside. Next item is actually a newer book. It's a version of Pliny the Elder's Natural History. This one is from roughly 1514, but in many ways it looks very much more like what you would think of. So it really isn't technically an incunabula because it's outside that 50 years. So the 50 years being 1500, 1501 of the cutoff date, but it has many more of the things that we normally think of as a rare book. It has with the binding or the clasp here and the tooling. I don't know if you really can see that, but there's tooling on the cover. This is probably a vellum cover, vellum being a form of a leather cover, vellum really being from the leather produced by a tanning process of a calf's skin. So it's just a great image, I think, and a great example of some of the items that we have. Here's the interior, just a page from the interior of that item or that book as well. You know, one of the things I studied was really the book history, both here and in grad school. So, you know, people ask, well, why do we have historic items like this? For people who were interested in studying that type of material or other material culture from that time period, historians and others. Want to go on though, but so to a couple of other items. So we saw the picture of, or the painting, I should say, of Chamberlain, and we have rare books. Most people think of special collections being rare books, maybe manuscripts, writings by a particular person. But in addition, we do have, besides that painting of Chamberlain, this is Clorinda Strickland, who is part of the Strickland family of Bangor. They were prominent, the Strickland family was prominent merchants here in the Bangor area in the 1840s, 1850s. And Stricklands were very instrumental in the formation, the original formation of the university. So that is one of the paintings, many paintings that we actually have here. This is hanging right outside of my office on the other side of the wall at the moment. So we always like to have Clorinda included. Clorinda is also included in, we have a few things in, if you have ever looked at the Maine Memory Network that Maine Historical has up as a digital archive. Clorinda is in the Maine Memory Network from our institution. This is, we have artifacts as well. This is a fun item that is actually right to the left. Clorinda is right outside, right on the outside of this picture. This is a cabinet that was brought back by Hannibal Hamlin from Spain when he was the ambassador to Spain in the 1880s during the Garfield administration. So again, something that you might not normally think of that we would have in special collections. Great object. The images do not do it justice. Moving on, we also are university archives. So we have the papers of the presidents, past presidents, the founding papers of the university, but we have some fun things like this broadside of a concert and ball that was from 1875. This is about, I'm looking at it here in the office, it's about 2 feet by 3 feet poster that was obviously put up around the college. One of the things to note at this point, it wasn't the University of Maine, it was the Maine State College at that point. It was what the actual name of the institution was. Keeping in mind that the university system came into existence in 1968 as formation of all of the state colleges that were, and state teachers colleges at that point. So great. I always love the various typefaces from this time period that you see on these kind of documents. This is a map actually that's about 4.5 by 4.5 feet of Penobscot County. So we have lots of historical maps throughout the collection. One of the neat things about this map is that each of these areas that you see highlighted in sort of a greeny blue, there are smaller insets here, and we'll see this in a minute for the Bangor area. So this is actually just a close-up of the Bangor area of that same map. And for those of you that are familiar with Bangor, what we're looking at here is, this is Hammond Street. This is Court Street. Court Street's here. This is Cedar Street here. So this is an 1859 map. So a lot of those names of streets that we drive on daily are already there. Ohio Street is here. But some names are different as well. So for instance, today, if you're driving on Hammond Street towards the airport, the downtown is to the right here. Hammond Street continues all the way out. But look here, if you can see, at that point in 1859, it was not called Hammond Street, it was called the Carmel Road, because it's on the road you took to Carmel, Maine. Likewise, this is actually the King House here on West Broadway, but at that point, it was not termed, it was not West Broadway, it was 7th Street. 7th Street now is right here, but 6th Street and 5th Street are still there. If you've ever been by the King House, you'll notice there are a lot of other large historic homes. The King House was the first house on that street in 1854. Most of the other ones on that street were from just post Civil War. So just a neat thing to see, I think. I always love talking about this flag because it's the flag of Raymond Fogler. Now, Fogler Library was named for Raymond Fogler, as we know. Fogler was Secretary of the Navy and was obviously very instrumental in the creation of Fogler Library, along with a colleague whose name escapes me. I'm sorry. The story goes, and it's probably apocryphal, but the story goes that Fogler and his friend were both very instrumental in fundraising and garnering support for Fogler. Neither of them, the story goes, wanted to have the library named after him. So they flipped a coin, and Fogler lost the coin cost. Now, what this flag is actually the flag when he was Secretary of the Navy, and he would be on board a ship. So it's the flag that was flown while he was on board ship as Secretary of Navy for that. Neat artifact. You may ask, this is actually a 1962 photograph of the campus. And we've got one coming up. This is the 68 photo. These photos, you may ask, well, where do we get our items for special collections? Some we purchase. Most we have donations from folks like yourself. These two photographs actually came from colleagues at USM about a year or so ago. These are very large images. They're about 4 by 4. They are outside on the walls displayed, but it's really interesting. For instance, here, and we're oriented towards, this is the mall here. This is Fogler before the edition, the 74 edition. So kind of get your bearings. This is the field house. Right here is your Commons and York Hall, the dormitory. If you were to actually look at it, it's under construction at that point, as are many other buildings here. You notice this is Cumberland Hall, Gannett Hall, but Androscoggin has not been built. So that's how we dated it to about 1962 by looking at the buildings that were there and weren't there.
No.
This again is
Nope.
an image from 1968 and 68, 69, because right here is Hilltop. And Hilltop is still, you can still see under construction at that point. But just the growth in 6 or 7 years of the campus is outstanding. I am going to stop this because I need to go over to another presentation because I was not able to include that. And I want to talk a bit about a great collection that we have that you've probably heard about from the Sewell Company. Now, Sewell Company was based in Old Town. And when Sewell was purchased by Delorme, and then ultimately, I think it's by Garmin now, and Delorme being of the Delorme Atlas fame, we received their images, aerial images. Sewell was a aerial imaging company doing a lot of work here in Maine. And we have a lot of call for this collection. My colleague, Paul Smitherman, works most directly with it and usually gets 3 or 4 calls or emails a week from a variety of people, municipalities, businesses, law firms, looking for images. This is actually, as you see here, one of the images from 1957 of Belfast, and then a Google image today of the changes. So lots of our researchers use them too as longitudinal studies for change environment. The city of Lewiston has done a lot of work with the changes as well with their images. Just going to hop back here now. I should say there's about a million images in all of the roles, we think, for the Sewell
I'm
collection.
sorry, Greg, but you're not showing the aerial photographs right now.
Oh, okay.
We're still on the slideshow. If you could
Hold
change
on.
that.
Let's go back.
Yeah.
Can you see him now?
No, I think you want to close out.
Yeah, I think I want to close out, stop this share and start another one. Hold on.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say you also want to close out the.
There we go.
Perfect.
There we go. Sorry about that, folks. Technical difficulties.
No
So,
worries.
as I said, this is an image from 1957 of Belfast that was taken by the Sewell Company, and then just a image from Google Earth today of the changes. So that's how some of the images get used a great deal. Here's 2 images from actually from the Sewell collection, one from 1965 and then 1977, again showing the changes in downtown Bangor that have occurred during that time period. So, as I say, we have researchers and municipalities all quite often get in touch with us to look at these so that they can see the changes going on and for development purposes. Let's go back to my other screen here. Any more questions? Thank you for letting me know that you weren't seeing it. John.
Oh, Greg, thanks. That was a really interesting selection of your material. I really appreciate it. You may recall my current hat is working as a GIS librarian. So I've been especially interested in the acquisition of the Sewell photos, which I've only read about in the Bangor Daily. I'm down in Pennsylvania. So
yeah.
So I'm curious, there's millions and millions of those images, is that
Right.
now, how much of that has been digitized?
We received some already digitized. Paul, as I say, has been digitizing the coast primarily because that's where most of the questions have come from. The
Yeah.
larger areas, the larger municipalities like Portland and whatnot, and on demand. But actually just a small fraction of what we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
We've estimated it's going to be, if we were to digitize all of it, it's probably going to be a project that would be about 400,000 to digitize.
Sounds like a big grant.
Yeah. So,
But with, I mean, you can pitch it as climate change, just all
Right.
sorts of land use, land cover change. Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, it's just a treasure.
Absolutely.
The other question I had is, have you been following some of the other collections online of aerial photographs? I know University of Wisconsin, for instance, did a great big huge collection.
Yeah.
I
We
mean, that's
have.
another $500,000 grant, but I was
Yeah.
curious about what your ambitions are for once getting this digitized stuff up to.
I mean, it would be great. What we would really like to do is eventually get it up
Yeah.
and available so researchers could, take a look at it online, and then if they needed to contact us for a higher resolution, then they could do that
Yeah.
down the road. So
Well, it's a wonderful treasure.
and the great part is, John, about this is that with the flight maps, we've got the you can geo-reference very easily.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that we've got here in Pennsylvania with the old soil conservation survey
Right.
maps.
And
But of course,
it
that's,
combines, I mean, this collection combines very well with, we have one of the collections that we have is the Great Northern Paper, Pulp and Paper collection, and we have all of the, as Paige had mentioned, all of our government, I still do government publications here, so all of our government collections as well. So fits in very, very, very well.
yeah, well, I'm just delighted to see that you're getting started on it. It's
Yeah.
a big, huge project. Thank you.
Mentioning documents, this is actually, you see, from 1847. It's about the oldest state document we have in the collection. It's just the laws of the state of Maine from.
Greg, can you click on that image, please?
I'm not sure. Let me try sharing again. Is everybody seeing okay, this is, thank you, Daisy. Thank you, Paige. They say this is just an image of the front page or the title page of the statutes of the state of Maine, actually published in 1847, but for the year 1840-41. This is about the earliest state document that we have in the collection. Just a neat artifact from state history. As you probably know, we also are have the Cohen papers. So just a couple of images from the collection. This image is a very iconic image that to let you know, Cohen has a new book coming out. We were contacted before Thanksgiving that they're going to use, by his office, he's going to use this image of the walk from the walk in his book. So great collection to have. And just a couple of finishing up here now. This is actually a fairly new collection that we just took in of a small collection of photographs by Barbara Young, who is a photographer, has 4 or 5 books of photography out, and she's also a psychiatrist, or was a psychiatrist, I should say. She passed away recently. She worked primarily in the Cape Rosier area of Brooklyn, which is Blue Hill, Brooklyn, Castine area. Just great photographs that we received from a donor. this image of the still life, the slide does not do the image justice in person. And then just a fun thing that we're working on in the future coming down the road. The Bananas the Bear costumes that we are all familiar with from football games and others. Daisy was contacted recently. I should say, no, not Daisy. It was our university archivist, Matthew. And then Matthew and I talked with Daisy, and we kind of all agreed that they were either going to get thrown out because the space that where they are in the union is being reformatted. So we're in the process of taking on the mascots, so that we are still trying to decide where they will end up being displayed. So there's my email. The email on the top is our general email. Many people in the department look at that email. My email is my direct email, and that's my phone number if you want to get in touch with me. I'd be more than happy to talk with anybody about, anything about special collections. So hope you've enjoyed just a taste of some of the items that we have in special collections.
Thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate your time and pulling together those treasures for us to see. We do have a few questions from the chat.
Sure.
So let's see here. Malcolm Hamilton, thank you for your question. We have, let's see, who would receive the Folklore Library magazine, and what services are you offering to alumni, especially who work as student assistants in folklore? So two-part question. Daisy, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Malcolm. Can you hear me? You're okay? All right. So this is where the fact that I'm here only 3 months in, I hope you'll give me the allowance that I and my leadership team have a lot of ideas, but there's still a lot of conversations left to be had. So even in terms of like what the focus of the magazine would be, I think it's like ideally like outward looking, but I don't want to also, I would like to also include like more local stories. So ideally, like all donors would receive it as a start, but I don't even know the details of the printing costs, etc. So I can't promise anything, but that would be like the ideal. And in terms of the second question, I've only met the Alumni Association director like once, and maybe had like an email. So I'm just slowly learning like what alumni receive in terms of like being part of the association. So I guess I would turn the question to you, like what would you expect to receive from Fogler? Or what would you be?
For funding. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Well, what we receive primarily is requests for more money. I've spent my career in the Harvard library system after I graduated from Maine and Simmons, so I'm especially interested in folklore. But we don't need to have a personal conversation in front of all these nice folks. So welcome, you've got your hands full.
Thank you, and please reach out, when you have a chance, and I'd love to hear your
I
ideas.
hear you. No, that was my fault. Anyway, welcome.
Paige, I think you're muted, Paige.
Daisy is muted.
I did it. Okay, I was muted. My apologies. Greg, we have a question for you. The house you pointed out as the King House, was that Stephen and Tabitha King House, correct?
Yes, that's Stephen. That would be the red house.
Great, thank you. Let's see here. What other questions? Okay, we have a question from Nancy Sanford, or a comment. She writes, my mom, Muriel Sanford, worked in special collections from 1971 to 2000 and was the director from 1990 to 2000 and is responsible for the university, University obtaining the Cohen papers. Oh, wonderful. What was the name of the photographer of the Cape Rosier image?
What was the name of what?
Greg, can you unmute yourself?
He is.
I am. What was? Oh, I didn't quite catch the end of that page. What was the end? What was the end of the question?
Greg, I think if you look at the chat, the question from Nancy Sanford is, what was the name of the photographer of the Cape Rosier images?
Oh, I'm sorry. Barbara Young is the person's name. And she has, I say, several books out of her photography.
Well, interestingly, the Sanfords, my parents bought a cottage in 1992 on Cape Rosier at Harborside. So,
Yeah.
great. Mhm.
I should say that a name, speaking of Muriel, that many of you will also recognize, one of the first, I think actually probably the first official persons appointed to special collections as head of special collections was Francis Hartkin. Now, Hartkin, you probably recognize the name from connection with Vincent Hartkin, who was longtime art faculty here and curator of the art collection throughout much of that time period. So just tidbit of knowledge. She was here at the early, it was in the early 70s.
Francis Hartkin was my practice teacher
Ah.
in Orono. She taught in the 8th grade.
And the Hartkins house on Forest Avenue is still one of the more notable homes in the town.
It is not yellow any longer, though. It's a tan.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Professor Hartkin said that when he designed the house, he took a year to watch the property and situated it such that as much as possible, the wind would remove the snow from the driveway.
Ah.
Great. Are there any further questions for Greg and Daisy?
Can I add one comment? The earlier aerial map of photograph of the campus in the upper left shows the original dormitories that were built as temporary housing for people returning from the war. And as late as 1957, when I was at the University of Maine, we were still using them. They were pretty awful.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
Well, I think we all want to welcome you, Daisy. It's great to have you here at Fogler. It's a institution that is near and dear to all of us here, I'm sure.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Well, unless there's any further questions, I'm going to turn this back over to Daisy. I appreciate everyone joining us today. What a pleasure to see you all and get a chance to see some of the treasures in the Fogler Library. And Daisy has a few more things to share, some highlights to look forward to this spring. And with that, I will turn it over to her.
Okay, so for the spring, you can look forward to 2 film festivals that we're holding. One is a Latin American Film Festival. We're likely trying to invite some directors of the films to speak either most likely virtually. So it should be a hybrid schedule. And I wanted to thank Maria Sandweiss, if she's still here, for helping with promotion, because most of the films are either in Portuguese or in Spanish, and with English subtitles. So I appreciate the suggestion she made, and she's already been a big support. I attended the Spanish table because I was concerned that I'm going to start losing my Spanish if I don't speak enough, and I don't speak to my mom that regularly and the folks at home. So look forward to that. And there's also, Greg, you might be able to help me. The Human Dimensions of Climate Change film series is in maybe its 4th year or 5th year. And so that will be happening also. And the people coordinating both of those, the festival and the series, collaborated so that one of the films is being shown in each series and festival. So I just wanted to invite you to that and look out for that. And also we have a social media campaign that we're calling What's Your Fogler Story? So I recognized coming in that the Fogler is an iconic place, and people have a lot of feeling attached to different rooms. Maybe they fell in love somewhere in Fogler, or they love to use the microfilm readers, or whatever the story is. And we had the feeling that it would be great to hear more of those stories that are touching and kind of reminds you of why the place is important and connects people. So we have on our social media instance, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, a post inviting you to submit your stories, whatever you'd like to share, and if you have images. And we'd ideally like to feature them on our social media. If you're willing to submit a story, but you're not a big social media user, you can always write me directly as well. And we can talk a little bit about how to highlight your story. So with that, I'd just like to say that, I'm just an email away. Usually email's quicker, but you can always call me too. If you'd ever like to discuss any ideas, I'm new and I'm learning. It's a tight-knit community, very collaborative, which I'm liking. So I trust I'll hear from you in the future if you have any thoughts to share. And I just wanted to thank you for also making me feel very welcome, and for the great turnout today. I didn't expect to see so many of you, and I'm very grateful that you made time for us today. So thank you so much. And for your, sorry, I should also say thank you for your support and donations. Let's not forget that over the years, I'm sure I'm still learning all of that as well. But it's also nice to just make the human connection, because sometimes, it's great to have support, but sometimes if you don't have that conversation, something's missing. So it's great to have this opportunity, and thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to be shutting the recording off. If anyone wanted to stay and say a few words, that's fine. Thank you again.